Now to a watchdog report tonight. Money left on the table. Spectrum News 13 has gotten a hold of an internal memo showing Orange County could lose up to $25 million that it was supposed to use to help struggling renters.
Well, Spectrum News 13's watchdog reporter Molly Durek is here with us. Molly is breaking down exactly what you're learning. What is the latest?
Yes, let me break it down a little bit for you and set the scene. So in response to the coronavirus pandemic, the federal government set aside two separate enormous batches of funding for emergency rental assistance, or ERA as it's called. Both of those together total nearly $47 billion. And that money was allocated to states and local governments. They control distribution of those federal funds. Florida's total allocation was $2.5 billion. And breaking it down even further, the feds allocated Orange County $33.4 million for ERA 1 and $39 million for ERA 2. Now, Orange County may lose up to $23 million of ERA 2 money because the county is not meeting the U.S. Treasury's deadlines. This ultimately impacts people who are fighting to stay in their homes.
For Evelyn Gaston, balancing expenses the last 2 years is proving very difficult, especially with the hefty medical bills she says she has after spending over a month in the hospital late last year.
Every Wednesday, I go to the pantry and they give me food like to survive for the week.
Evelyn lives in an income-restricted apartment community for seniors, but still, she says her monthly rent recently went up by about $200.
I don't have enough money to, really shop. It's getting expensive out there.
As she puts away these items from the food pantry, there's one thing on her mind.
I don't want to find myself in the street.
Evelyn's been homeless before. She knows what that struggle's like. And this time, she'd like to get ahead of it. Knowing her finances are in jeopardy, she'd like to seek help now, before it's too late.
I don't want to be late on rent because once before I was late in rent and they told me that they would have to give me an order of eviction.
But Orange County's Emergency Rental Assistance Program requires applicants to prove they're already behind on rent. A year after receiving nearly $16 million in federal emergency rental assistance funds from the American Rescue Plan, documents show Orange County still hasn't paid out a cent of that money. And because it hasn't even started distributing that chunk of change, Orange County stands to lose about $23 million of additional funding it was supposed to receive and distribute to vulnerable households. By the end of March, Orange County was supposed to have distributed at least 20% of its $39 million ERA2 allocation per Treasury Department guidelines. But the county didn't meet that goal and still hasn't. We asked the county to explain why.
In terms of the benchmarks or the targets for ERA2, those were not all clear in the guidance to begin with. As guidance comes out, you get updates along the way.
But one key piece of Treasury guidance that hasn't changed in at least a year states you don't have to already be behind on rent to apply. That's a requirement Orange County decided to include, adding a barrier for folks who could really use the help, like Evelyn.
I find myself without nothing, in my checking account, and I'm like, okay, so I will just survive.
Florida's eviction process moves very quickly, providing limited options for renters who are behind. That's why legal aid attorneys like Jorge Acosta-Palmer encourage tenants to apply for help early, before they fall behind and receive a written late notice, if possible.
If you wait for a tenant to actually fall behind and provide a late notice, by the time that they apply for rental assistance and get approved, it's likely going to be too late for them to be able to cure the default or avoid the eviction.
We asked the county to explain why they enforce this requirement.
Because we want to be able to get to the person who's most likely to be evicted and who's going to be evicted quicker.
But because ERA applications take a while to process, Acosta-Palmer says that process can't compete with how quickly evictions move in Florida. He says making renters wait to fall behind is dangerous.
They're basically putting themselves at risk.
Orange County maintains they're doing the best they can with their ERA program.
Orange County's goal has been, is, and will be to keep as many people stably housed as possible, prevent as many evictions as possible, and do the best we can for our residents.
In the meantime, Evelyn will just keep cutting corners wherever she can.
Like, here is Mickey Mouse. He came from the Goodwill.
And keep hoping she could qualify for some assistance.
Now, last week we told you about a rent control study that Orange County commissioned from an outside consulting firm. That analysis did not support rent control, but pointed to the county's ERA program as an alternative method of helping keep struggling families from becoming homeless. And that analysis we showed you did recommend the county improve the way it's running the ERA program so money can get out faster. The Orange County Commission will go over that rent control report tomorrow during its regular meeting starting at 9.
And it's going to be a big meeting. Just a frustrating situation for so many families. Molly, thank you. Really appreciate it.